Hello everybody. Today we are going to be talking about all of the books that I have DNF'd so far, this year 2025. I used to be very apprehensive about DNFing books. I used to try to give them as much time and space as I possibly could. That led to me finishing a lot of books and essentially feeling like I wasted a lot of time. It wasn't up until last year that I began to allow myself to DNF a book or a series once every bit of entertainment and joy was sucked from the reading that I was doing. And this year, I have embraced the DNF. I'm going to start off with two of them that are actually not in my library anymore at the moment. Both of these, I don't have a photo of them here right now. My editing's not that great as of yet. But the two that I'm about to show you are in the center of the thumbnail of this video. We have Chronicles by D.G. Compton. This was written in the 60s, I believe. It's the second D.G. Compton that I tried to read. Now, the first D.G. Compton that I read, Farewell Earth's Bliss, was not exactly a enjoyable time. However, the concept and the emotional impact and the message of the story itself was ridiculous, and I think about it still extremely regularly. It is a benchmark for bleakness. The concept of this story grasped me firmly from the very beginning. However, there was so much personality stuff. I found it irking me. A lot of the characters have very deep-seated misogyny that rubbed me pretty badly. There's a lot of racism specifically towards Jews that really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not a Jew. I'm not religious. Personally, I was raised Christian, but I don't follow any of that now. I didn't like it. It was rubbing me bad. Now, a lot of books that have characters like this, you could tell by the narrator that this person is in the wrong, or they want to let you know. They make it very clear that this person is like a bad character in the book. Everything in the book came across as like this activity was justified and morally correct, and that didn't jive with me. It kept irking me, and it made me like I was getting kind of angry at it. There's one character in particular that I would really like to see what happens with them. The next book that I don't have here is Horns by Joe Hill. This, if I'm not mistaken, is like his first or second novel that he published. It was a weak novel. It didn't catch, nothing about it was good. It seemed extremely mediocre. The novelty of it really dwindled very quickly. I'm happy I gave it a shot. I don't see myself retrying this one though. Now for the books that I actually have here that I'm going to show you. We're going to work back in the timeline here. The most recent one, which you saw in the last video, The War of the Flowers by Tad Williams. I have given Tad Williams 4 shots at this point. The very first book that I read from him, Otherland, Part 1, it's nearly a 5 out of 5. It's perfect. But every single book that I've read from Tad since then has shit the bed. This is trying to be too cute. It thinks it is too funny. The first few chapters of this are phenomenal. This is a portal fantasy book that starts out with like a literary section in California, and that part is super, like, I loved that part. However, once the fantastical elements start to come into the story, it very, very, very quickly fell off for me. So this is one that I will be returning this to the bookstore, to the used bookstore, which I got it for a little bit of store credit. I'm not giving up on Tad Williams. I'm going to buy eventually the... Oh God, what is it? The Dragonbone Chair, Stone of Farewell. What's that called? Whichever series that's called. That I, for some reason, can forget the... For some reason, I'm forgetting the name. I'll remember here in a second. The second most recent book I DNFed, Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. This was set up to be the very first Dan Simmons book that I've actually ever read. I got 200 pages into this before I DNFed it. The characters weren't jiving very well. The writing was good. However, I realized once I got 200 pages into this book that I had no attachment whatsoever to the plot or the characters. I do have The Terror, which I hear is really good, and I read Hyperion last month. Loved it. Like top 5 science fiction of all time. Easily. This one missed the mark for me. I'm going to keep it on the shelf, and I will go back and try to read it. Maybe I'll tackle this. Maybe I'll try to tackle this again next summer. I haven't given up hope on it. I hear that once it starts going, it's really good. This next one, I was very disappointed that I didn't catch on to this one. We have Melmoth the Wanderer by Charles Robert Maturin. Maturin. This is a 1800s gothic... It's the quintessential novel of selling your soul to the devil. It's written by, I believe it's an Irish monk, priest, clergyman type person. This is a huge wandering, meandering mess. Story within story within story within story. It's utterly confusing. I think this is one that I would essentially need to go into with a roadmap. Because 200 pages into this, I was somehow talked into someone telling a story within someone else's story, and when you pull back a little bit to the original story, it was so confusing that I had forgotten pretty much anything that was going on. The scenery in this book, the landscapes, and the destinations in this book are absolutely fascinating. I need to go back after I have done some preparation. I need to do some preparation to read this book, essentially, because this is a staple of Gothic literature. Maybe next year, maybe I need to give this more time. We will see, and I look forward to reading this. American Rapture by C.J. Leede. This one, I bounced off this very quickly. I don't think I got further than 20 pages into this before I bounced off of it. It was kind of an immediate taste thing. So far, the only book that I've read from this publisher that I actually really enjoyed was Boys in the Valley. I essentially bounced off of this before I could really tell if it was for me or not. It's super contemporary, which is a yellow flag immediate. I'm not going to say red flag, but it's immediate yellow flag for me anytime there's like social media. I don't even necessarily like cell phones. I like 80s and before, really. Maybe next year I'm going to go back and try to give this another shot. As for now, I'm going to shelf it. The next one we have here, The 100 Years' War on Palestine. I was expecting it to be a bit more literary. I had just read The Wager a bit before I tried to pick this one up. The Wager was super adventurous and narrative driven. I was thinking that this one, seeing as it's like a people's history, it's a family history of Palestinians and the war and the aggravation and the aggression that comes from Israel. This is a great resource. It just turned out to be very academic. I found it, honestly, it was very boring. A lot of people find this very entertaining. I did not. I will be keeping this And the last book that we have here, this is one that this was one of my very first reads of the year, or the very first attempted reads of the year. Anibot by Sierra Greer. I think what it is that I tried to go into this book without fully understanding the book that I was about to read. It's a short little thing. It's just over 200 pages. The characters were mean to the Anibot, and that's kind of the point of the story, and there's a big message with that. But it just kind of upset me, and it made me mad. I don't like seeing... I don't know, I'm a big softie. I guess I'm just kind of a big softie. So I need to... one of these days I need to go back and read this. I am a bit discouraged to go back and actually read this. More so because of the reception that I've heard from the people who have finished reading it. They said that it just felt a little mediocre and not as good as some of the similar books that came out recently that tackle this same topic. I know that this one, there is an audiobook version of it that's available for rental through the library. It's like 9 hours. That's probably how I'm going to end up reading this one whenever I do get around to it. Alright, so that being said, these are all of the books, this big old stack right here, of all the books that I DNF'd this year. If I would have continued to read a good amount of these books, this Melmoth the Wanderer, for example, here, this is 650 pages. That would have bogged me down. I could feel the last 2 weeks or so that I was trying to read this book. It was dragging my reading as a whole down. I actually wanted to read less. I didn't want to read very much during the time because I knew that I knew what I was going to be reading was a book that was essentially running in circles within circles. If you need to DNF a book, I suggest that you allow yourself to do so, because if you don't, you may end up hampering your reading, at least if you're anything like me. Let me know your thoughts on DNFing books in general. I know that I didn't want to do it. I didn't allow myself to DNF books for a long time. And because of it, I had some years to where it would take me 6 months. It would take me 9 months, and I'd finish a book, and I would come out of it not wanting to read whatsoever. Cheers.